A lot of people don't know that Jamaicans are extremely Ghanaian.
The relationship between Jamaicans and Ghanaians have a lot in common. I've seen tons of videos of Jamaicans and Ghanaians saying that the Jamaicans are from Ghana. Even their flag is from Ghana, especially from the Ashanti region. And this video, a lot of people have different things to say about the relationship between these both countries. Let's take a look at this video, and please do not forget to like the video and comment your thoughts below.
A lot of people don't know that Jamaicans are extremely Ghanaian, not just because they take so long when you order food from there. They be like, chicken ready when it's ready, man. Not just for that reason, but genetically. In this process of self-discovery, I went from Ghana to Jamaica to Kingston up in the mountains to a maroon village called Akrompong. The Maroons are the people that escaped from slavery almost as soon as they hit the island, because they looking around, they're like, I know what to do with this. I'm out of here. Like, Maroons fought the British for 60, 70, 80 years until they reached a point where the British had to grant them sovereignty. Up in this maroon village, Akrompong. Akrompong is the name of a place in Ghana. The most famous Maroons, Kojo, like my name is Kwesi and Kweku. They're like the basic Ghanaian names. They speak Twi words and some of their patois. One of the wildest parts about it to me too is the fact that these people have had sovereignty and freedom since the 1600s. In that time, they have had 2 murders because they're so deeply in tune with their natural state as African people. It's a piece of technology that they placed on us through oppression to believe that we're an inherently violent, murderous people. It's just propaganda. Reality is that we live in a violent society. And so these people that extracted themselves from a violent society and lived within their ancestral spiritual practices, and had 2 murders, a period of 500 years. Not only that, everybody owns the land. There's no ownership of land because land is something that God provided for everybody. You can grow your food and feed your family. I don't know. Is that socialism? I guess African societies were kind of like rooted in a sort of socialism.
It is known that Jamaicans are from Ghana, from the Akans, from the Ashanti tribe. And also,
so I've been recently seeing a lot of videos on this whole Ghana-Jamaican relationship. I just want to touch on it quickly because I feel like a lot of it's coming from a pure place. However, the way we are talking about the history and the relationship is a bit skewed. There is a relationship, or there is the impact of peoples that are from what is now called Ghana to Jamaica, right? However, they are not the dominant group in Jamaica. In fact, there is no dominant group. People need to remember that there is no dominant people in terms of ethnically in the Jamaicans, in the period of enslavement during Jamaica, in Jamaica, sorry. To understand this, we need to understand this. When it comes to Jamaican history and culture, we must get away from looking at our history through a colonial lens. What I mean by that is we should never be saying that Jamaicans come from Ghana or Jamaicans come from Nigeria, because there was no Nigeria, there was no Ghana when our ancestors were being taken from there. Is it? And these things are modern constructs. These things are modern products of colonialism. Is it? So that's where that's. Point 2.
are from Ghana, from the Akans, from the Ashanti tribe. And
that's where you know what I'm saying? Historically, the Ashanti would have been more likely to be the ones trading people than to be the ones traded. And I think it's important for us to get away from looking at history through an imperial lens and deifying imperialism. We have more of a relationship or more of an impact from the other tree-speaking peoples of the Akan than we do with the Ashanti and other people of what is now known as Ghana, like the Ga. The next thing and the final thing is that when it comes to Jamaican culture and history, right, well, Jamaican culture, we need to understand that it has multiple origins. For instance, one of the videos, a man said that ackee comes from Ghana.
Ackee, which is part of Jamaica's national dish, ackee and saltfish, originates in Ghana, although Ghana...
Which ackee? Kiana Wanya. They said ackee comes from Ghana, but it's not true. There's zero evidence. Zero evidence that ackee comes from Ghana. What we do know is that this fruit, or at least the name for this fruit, it's a cashew nut, by the way. This fruit is where we get the word ackee from. In the Akan language, this is known as akeya or achia. You see it? And they believe that this is where we get the name ackee from. However, in the Kru language of Liberia, they call this eki. You know what I'm saying? Eki.
Trees, you'd see guava trees, you'd see cassava and things like that. And then I started mingling with the Ghanaian people. I started to hear words that we use in Jamaica, like Mise, Wende, and so forth. And then I started to hear names that we used to call people in Jamaica, and we think they were nicknames or aliases. Quaco, Kojo, Taki. Then I started to realize these names were related to the days that a male were born or a female were born. And when I started talking to Ghanaian people, I started to see their love. They started telling you, you're also an African, because they can see the behavior. We can see the similarity in looking alike. And then when I started to go around with the Ghanaian people, then I said, yes, I'm a Jamaican. I remember once I went to a marketplace to buy what they call kola nut. In Jamaica, we call it busy. So after I bought the nut, the lady said to me, do you know this thing? I said, yes, but only in Jamaica we call it busy. She said, oh, you're an African then, because we call it busy here also. Then when I look again at the mountainside and the homes we built in Jamaica, then like Warwicker Hill, then I go to Aburi, I see the same kind of structure, the same kind of house built the same way, the same. A matter of fact, I think we have the same liking as the people. The things we love, they do love too. So therefore the interaction with Ghanaian people and yourself will make you know that you're an extract of that part of Africa, West Africa, or Ghanaian people, so to speak. So therefore, being saying an African, it's something that you can be proud of.
All right. You heard it, and it is said that most of the original inhabitants of Jamaica were from Ghana, and so I'm sure we have so much in common. The very first president of Ghana,
he says that it came with during the the beginning of the transatlantic slave trade in the 1500s or so, with enslaved Akans to the Jamaicans. And that is how Anche got into Jamaica. So the original name in Akan is Anche, and then in Jamaica it is known as Ackee. The next name I'm going to spell out is Dokunu, which is how the Jamaicans, I've heard it said, Dokunu. Dokunu is not wrong. The Akans or the Ghanaians, if I'm permitted to generalize, will say Dokunu. And there are various types of dokono. There is the Ga Kenke, inclined dokono. There is the Fanti Kenke, Fanti dokono. The other name that Jamaica may call it is also Jamaican blue draws. Yes, that is the same cornmeal wrap.
There is really a lot in common between Jamaicans and Ghanaians. Watching this video, you can see that they even pronounce their name almost the same. Their food, the way they speak their language, their patois, and all those things. There's a lot in common between Jamaicans and Ghanaians. If you're a Jamaican, please watch this video. If you're a Ghanaian, please throw more light on it of what you think about the relationship between these both countries. Because for me, I feel that they have a lot in common. In fact, some people even say that the Jamaicans are from Ghana. But at the same time, I would also love to see your take on what you also think about the relationship between these both countries. And I will see you in my next one. Bye for now and stay blessed.